Yo, what's up? Welcome to this new lesson. I hope you're clear with what we're doing here. If you're still having a few doubts and you don't know what to do, well, maybe regarding the theme, you can always just choose the same one I'm doing, all right? This is just we're learning together. I'm going to start with Romeo and Juliet. I'm going to open up a file that's going to be a guide. It's just going to be a guide, so later I'll worry more about the resolution and all that kind of stuff. Don't worry about that right now. We're not going to worry about that right now. We don't need to. If you're interested or don't know what to choose at any moment, just do the same thing I'm doing. I chose an A4, and well, I think if we're going to work like this, mainly it's a good size to make a book cover with because it's not really going to go for anything bigger. So an A4 like this is going to be enough. Later, you guys can vary the colors and stuff, okay? Change it to CYMK, which is optimal for printing, or whatever. But we'll do that later on. Right now, what we want to do is make a composition of what we're going to be developing. So, I've opened here my file, and what I'm going to do is create a new layer to work on. And from there, I'm going to gather some concepts that make me think of Romeo and Juliet. We know that Romeo and Juliet is a romantic tragedy. So we're going to try and get the most out of that play without revealing anything, too much. You don't want to spoil the ending of how they die. I mean, what? So here we have a cover that I think is from a movie. And as you can see, it's all very saturated. There's like a couple in there. There's certain things that, maybe Shakespeare's original play doesn't represent. But oh well. I'm going to start getting all these concepts down to get a kind of summary, get a kind of an idea of what I want to do. So that I can focus on what I'm going to develop in the end. So I can opt out ideas. I can get rid of ideas. Or choose some that maybe I didn't like or I didn't think of before, In this way, we're going to be putting things in little by little, and you're going to be motivating yourself to create that content that's going to help you to choose your final composition. Now, more than anything, I'm just testing my brushes to see which one I'm going to be more comfortable with. Right now, I'm using CC 2018, and well, I have some preset brushes. The ones, the Webster ones, the Carl Webster ones. I normally use the dry medium one. It's like a pencil style that I like quite a lot. I'm into it. Well, as you've seen, I put in that series of concepts that I'm going to use to summarize the following from. We're going to be working on the concept of couples. We're going to include in that concept the things we're going to develop further on. So obviously we have Romeo and Juliet. This is something that I want to obviously use on the cover. We could put a scenery to place them in, If you can't think of anything, you can always look into the actual, book. To me, for example, the scene where they're on the balcony, I think it's the nicest scene that we can put easily down on the page. It's also the most representative part of Romeo and Juliet. There are a lot of scenes that can be very similar, maybe with the fights or the arguments or in love, the love complaints kind of things. But that scene is the most identifiable of the play. We all know that Romeo, Romeo, where art thou? Right now, I'm just trying out my brush to see how it works. Okay, what I'm going to do now is to develop the concepts that I've been talking about. But what I'm going to do is create a series of small boxes with the shape of like a reduced A4 sheet of paper. So like a vertical rectangle. And I'm going to use the small size they have to try and establish the structure without going into too many details. So I'm going to get, in this case, a series of 4 images from which I'm going to decide which one I like the most. And I can choose which one I'm going to use. I'm quite clear that the one I want to show up as the main one is the figure of Romeo and Juliet. I know that. Now, how do I represent that? Well, that's what I'm trying to figure out here. There are a few ways. For example, in the first cover I'm developing, you can see the profiles of the 2 characters. In those 2 profiles, we're going to try and include all of the information that we want to put in there to make, references to the play. To make it kind of like a summary, a kind of blurb of what the book is about, In the second one, well, I thought we could do a scene like a kiss between the 2 main characters. The title could go here in the top left margin. And well, this is just trying to make silhouettes, keeping in mind that the inside is going to be full of details very far away from what the silhouette may represent. In the third case, I thought that we could represent this with like some hands. For example, the balcony scene, what I can kind of visualize when I think of this, will be that moment where, they're both reaching out to each other. They really want to be together. They just want to touch each other. They've fallen in love after 2 weeks of knowing each other. So I want to represent something as if they were together, so to speak. But there's a distance between them. So the image, although it represents one thing, the inside is going to represent something very different. This is the one that I like the most. I think it represents the concept I want to develop really well. So it's quite possible that I use this one for my work. And then in last place, I thought about making a kind of union, like a fusion of those 2 heads to represent one person, so to speak. But I'm not going to lie, it looks a little bit strange, really. If I'm honest, I'm looking at this and it just makes me feel quite uncomfortable. I'm much more into the second one or the first one, but yeah, I think I'm going to go for the third one because I think this is the best image. Okay, so now we've chosen the composition, we're going to try and develop a little bit more. I'm going to draw the hands. Right now, I'm not really interested in making a super detailed sketch. What I want is to see how I would like the hands, placed correctly to be able to get an idea later on when I'm drawing out the sketch larger in an A4 format, like the one we're going to choose for our project. What I want to do is something like that. Like they're just nearly touching, and then inside, what I want to draw is this scene. Juliet on a kind of balcony and Romeo below. Stretching hands towards themselves, They're just kind of reach out to each other. So it's going to be like a kind of approach to the situation that they're in, but not entirely. It's something that's a little more complex than that. So it looks more attractive, at least to me. If you want to take any kind of reference when you're making your sketch, go for it. This is basically a draft image that, you're preparing in your head to develop it later. Okay, something like this. I like this a lot. It looks pretty cool. Later on, when we're done with the composition, and when you have that final result, you can vary this a lot from what you had in the beginning in your composition. But that's stuff that you're going to be revising as your design just goes on, you know? So this is just a guide. You know, it's a concept. So if you change anything, it's probably going to be for the best anyway, but this is what's going to help you start from, from scratch without being too sure. And when you're finished, you're going to get like ideas that are going to be better or a concept that makes you say, "Oh, I could have done it this way." And you might have seen it if you had worked more the idea. It's not recommendable to stick with the first thing you do. You have to try and work more and well, maybe you go with the first sketch, anyway, that can happen. But if you leave it there and you stick with the what could have been, if I developed it a bit more, maybe I would have liked the second one more, or the third one, or the fourth one. Don't let that barrier stop you. Go on with as much as you can. So, well, we're going to finish the composition concept here. I'll see you guys in the next lesson. Guten Tag.